Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Common Sense Crypto Channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP, but we're going to talk about Cbdcs as well. So Ripple, head of policy, calls for UK to join global trend of Cbdc adoption. So Friedman noted that Ripple's goal is to advocate for global policy frameworks that encourage ecosystem development for crypto assets, including Cbdcs. She expressed excitement for what's happening in the UK, as London and the government have taken a proactive approach to fintech and Cbdcs. She cited the work of the Bank of England with the digital pound and the government's consideration of all viewpoints when implementing a Cbdc. And we know Ripple's been out there on the front lines pushing for Cbdcs all throughout the world. But I think something much bigger is going on. So right now, we know Fednow is about to go live this month. Fednow is an instantaneous settlement and funds transfer in 20 seconds. Plus, Fednow is better than wire transfer. So they speed up the payments here in the US. But what is Fednow actually? I think right now it's just a faster payment system. Later, it will morph into a Cbdc, because every other country is pushing in that direction. And I think they pushed Fednow way too quick. And I think they did that because Brics is amping up the time frame. Just like last year when I was talking about Russia and a Cbdc, I said that's going to change the timeline on everything now. And sure enough, country after country was rushing to get a Cbdc going. But when Brics is talking about a reserve currency, they're talking about a gold-backed currency to come into play to outperform the US dollar, because they want to crush the US dollar at the same time. And they also want to send back all the US debt overnight. And even the Treasury is preparing for that to happen. But this is what Russia is planning for right now.
The Brics group is set to introduce a new currency backed by gold, in contrast to the credit-backed US dollar, with countries lining up to join the growing initiative.
The Brics countries are planning to introduce a new trading currency which will be backed by gold. More and more countries recently expressed desire to join Brics.
The decision comes a month ahead of scheduled Alliance Summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. 41 countries have since shown their interest in Brics membership and its new currency implementation. Russia's foreign ministry has stated that if African states show enthusiasm, the group's expansion may also be on a Russia-Africa summit's agenda in the end of July. As of now, the Brics group remains comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Former statistician general of South Africa, Pali Lehola, says the gold-backed currency will facilitate the advancement of developing countries.
So what's going to be the US's answer to a gold-backed currency being used by the Brics? Because right now the US dollar is propped up by nothing but empty promises. It's losing value all the time, and it's going to lose a lot more value in the future if this comes about. And I think we're going to see this happen in August, because that's the next major meeting. So China's Jinan has implemented digital yuan fair payment. The Chinese city of Jinan has implemented the possibility of a digital yuan fair payment on all bus routes and launched a program to encourage using the central bank digital currency. And we've seen them do this in other countries as well. They want to start people off slow. In other words, we're going to use it for you to take the bus. We're going to use it in all our taxis. Then before you know it, it's starting to be utilized in the stores and the shops. And then before you know it, people are getting tied more and more in with the Cbdc because they get used to using it. Here in the US, I think it's going to be a much tougher sale. When CbdCs become reality, you see there, card decline. Please delete all tweets that violate your bank's hate speech policies to process payment. And everybody knows a Cbdc can enslave all of us. But a lot of people are now trying to sell it off as something else. Look at Gilbert Verdian over there at Quant, the QNT token. He talks about it like the central bank doesn't care if you buy a sandwich or not. But what happens if somebody wants to buy gas for their car to get to work, and all of a sudden the green agenda says you can't buy gas, or your carbon credits, you don't have enough of them to buy that gas? All of a sudden, guess what? You're walking to work. And if you don't think that's a reality, it's exactly what the World Economic Forum is pushing for. Take a listen to this.
And the one final note I will make is that if you think about the benefits of digital money, there are huge potential gains. It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates. You could have, as I argue in my book, a potentially better and some people might see it, or a darker world where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition or drugs or pornography or something of the sort. And that is very powerful in terms of the use of a CBDC.
And that's what they will use it for, because in the future, everything is going to be controlled through a CBDC. So say, for instance, you want to travel, but you don't have the carbon credits to travel. You won't even be able to buy the plane tickets until you have the money to buy the carbon offsets. And that's the world they're pushing us into. Smart everything, massive surveillance, digital ID, CBDC, social credit score, and a technocratic digital dictatorship. Take a listen to this video.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy President. Australian cities are becoming digital surveillance precincts, with so-called smart city programs being rolled out across the country. Invasive technology such as facial recognition cameras, licence plate readers, smart lights, smart poles, smart cars, smart neighbourhoods, smart homes and smart appliances, all connected to wireless networks and communicating with each other. So what's wrong with that? Technology is good, isn't it? All this is for your safety, security and convenience, isn't it? Well, let me tell you, your streets are spying on you, your mobile phone is spying on you, your cities are spying on you, and the infrastructure for future lockdowns is being put into place right now. Don't be fooled. You're being set up to be tracked through your movements and through the future of your digital wallets. By handing over your data, you're handing over the ability to monitor your behaviour, which will soon be turned into a social credit score. And once the central bank digital currencies are in place, you won't get to spend your money without approval. Digital ID will soon become a reality in Australia. Many other countries are already rolling these systems out, countries like Canada, Scotland and many others. Eventually, you won't be able to access any government or public services, and you won't be able to travel across borders or access healthcare or the internet without a digital ID. Think you won't comply? I think you will. The last 2 years were the dress rehearsal and we fell for it hook, line and sinker. Australians are sleepwalking into this technocratic future. And while we're sitting around scratching our chins trying to work out whether this is really happening, Australia is drifting towards a dystopian digital future.
And that's coming to every country right now. Here in the US, people don't believe it. I talk to people outside of crypto all the time and I tell them, listen, once we get a CBDC, first they don't know what a CBDC is, and I have to explain that. Then I try to tell them, this is going to enslave you in the future. And they're like, yeah, but the government, they're going to step in and they're never going to let this to happen. The government is pushing for this to happen. Our government is under the control of the World Economic Forum. People are so delusional today because they're programmed by television shows and movies and even the mainstream media news to just comply with the government. And as long as people keep complying, we're going to end up like Australia. And it looks like they're pushing ahead much quicker than everywhere else. The EU is in the process of the same thing. And 15-minute cities, if you don't think they're building them here in the United States, you are wrong. How it starts is they change a road. Then they change another road. And before you know it, you're trying to leave town. And guess what? You're driving in circles because your town now became a 15-minute town. And it's all in the name of climate change and social credit score and keeping you under surveillance at all times. And again, even the carbon footprint, they're already planning a tracker for that so they could tax you on your carbon in the future. Take a listen.
We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So individual carbon footprint tracker. Stay tuned. We don't have it operational.
They don't have it operational yet, but they're already working on this. And already some restaurants implement this. And even if you rent a car, things like that, all of a sudden you start seeing carbon offset, taxes in the bill. And it's a minimal amount. And in most times you overlook it unless you actually look at your receipt. Then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell is this? I'm getting charged now for carbon usage. And that's how they get you. They start off small and then it expands into something much, much bigger. Get ready for World ID and WorldCoin, universal basic income offering free money in exchange for your eyeball scan, while the American public and some U.S. politicians have been sounding the alarm recently over the dangers of the potential future rollout of a central bank digital currency. Everything is going one world. One world global citizen. That's why they have open borders. That's the beginning of that. So you could go wherever you want with your global ID of the future. But then it becomes one world religion. Then it's one world currency. And before you know it, you're a slave to the entire system. And a lot of people see a CBDC as the mark of the beast system, which is also being built. And I have to agree. I don't think it is that. I think it's the precursor to that. I think this is the beginning of something much, much bigger. But what is a digital ID actually? So you see, it's tied to your health care. So say you have a health problem, you're not getting a job. Financial services to open bank accounts. So you can't have a bank account unless you have a digital ID in the future. Food and sustainability. They're going to control you through the food supply. Travel and mobility. You won't be traveling unless you can afford carbon offsets in the future. Let's face it. Humanitarian response. To access services that demonstrate qualifications to work in a foreign country. Right now, a lot of people work abroad and then they send the money home. That won't be possible in the future without a digital ID. They'll be the first people to get that digital ID. E-commerce, to shop. So you won't be able to buy anything unless you have that digital ID. Social platforms. In other words, if you want to go on Twitter and rant about the government, you'll need a digital ID for that in the future. E-government, for citizens to access and use services, file taxes, vote, collect benefits. Again, how would you vote in the future without that digital ID? Telecommunications, for users to own and use devices. So you want cell phone service. Again, digital ID. Smart cities, to monitor devices and sensors transmitting data such as energy usage, air quality, traffic congestion. So you won't even be able to get the utilities turned on without a digital ID in the future. I think the digital ID points more in the direction of the number of the beast system than a CBDC does, because you need this digital ID for everything. Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter killer, Threads engages users over mass data collection, near zero privacy, collects social credit score, religious affiliation, and sexual orientation. So some of you might have heard of Threads. I don't plan on leaving Twitter. I think Mark Zuckerberg created this over there at Facebook so all the Democrats could go over there onto that platform and rant all day long. Because on Twitter, they seem to be losing their blue check mark or whatever. Listen, I don't care what people have to say. At this point right now in our lifetime, people need to come together. If you're a Democrat, get along with the Republicans. If you're a Republican, learn to get along with Democrats. You have to, because people need to be united more than ever now. And what created this division? BlackRock, through CNN and Fox News, and other ways as well. But anyway, this is what they collect from you. So your data linked to you. Now this is coming from the new platform Threads. Health and fitness, financial info, contact info, user content, browsing history, usage data, diagnostics, purchases, location, contacts, search history, identifiers, sensitive info, other data, your location, personal information, name, email, user IDs, address, phone number, political or religious beliefs, sexual orientation, and other. user payment info, purchase history, credit score, and other financial info, health and fitness information, emails, SMS or MMS, other in-app messages, photos, videos, voice or sound recordings, music files. This is all the information they want to collect from you. And this is coming right off of Fox News, so it actually hit the mainstream media for once. Usually this gets buried somewhere, nobody ever talks about it, because most of these people hate Twitter because of Elon Musk. But you know, I look at it like this. We need to keep the information flowing so people can educate themselves. That's the whole reason I make these videos, so I could educate more people on what's coming in the future. But like I said, we got to unite or we're going to fall. And they're going to implement this system one way or another, because you're always going to have that mass of people that go with whatever the government says. Then you have a mass of people that absolutely know what the government's trying to do at the same time. But we need to come together. That's what it comes down to. They've been dividing us way too long. And you know, in the future, think about it. Everybody is going to have to rely on someone else, especially when you can't own anything and you're supposed to be happy. What else do you have to make you happy when everything around you becomes a chaotic, crisis-filled world in order for climate change to be implemented and social credit scores and 24/7 surveillance? You will rely on each other then, because that's when everybody comes together after a catastrophe hits. But with that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.